everybody, Brian here with TrailGrid Pro. Over the last couple of videos, we've been doing some awesome audio upgrades for the 5th gen 4Runner, and today we're going to be installing a new 5-channel amp and sub plug-and-play kit. The Kicker KS series speakers have already proven to be an awesome upgrade for the 5th gen. With our new 5-channel plug-and-play amp and sub kit, you're going to receive Kicker's 660.5 5-channel amp and your choice of an 8, 10, or 12-inch down-firing sub box. In addition to these two pieces of hardware, you're going to receive all of the cables, connectors, power, ground, anything that you need to make this kit truly plug and play and easy to install in your own garage. Before we get started on the installation, let's go over a few of the tools that you're going to need to get this done. Some sort of ratchet, an extension, a 10mm socket, a 12mm socket, a 14mm socket, a panel tool or some sort of plastic pry tool, a utility knife, a 3mm Allen. You will get one provided with the Kicker amp. This is going to be to make your connections for your power and ground, side cutters, a Phillips head screwdriver, and a handful of zip ties. All right, so let's not delay the process any longer. Let's go ahead and head over to the truck and we'll get this installed in our 5th gen 4Runner. All right, in today's installation, we're going to cover the amp and sub install in a 2010 to 2023 Toyota 4Runner that is non-JBL amplified. In the next video series, we'll be showing you the amp bypass. So this video is only going to be applicable to the non-JBL 4Runners. First step in the process is obviously disassembling or getting access to the back of your radio. We've already gone ahead and done that here, but if you need the disassembly instructions on how to do that, check out one of our other installation videos. We'll link those down in the description. Today we're going to be placing our new 5-channel amp under the passenger seat, so we're going to need to clear out a few things to be able to run the wires from behind the dash to under the seat. We're going to start doing that by moving to the passenger floorboard. We're going to remove the 4 seat bolts holding in the passenger seat to clear it out of the way as well. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and take out the passenger seat to make way for our new Kicker amplifier. To do that, we're going to remove the 4 plastic covers that cover up the 4 14mm bolts. Remove the plastic covers, simply just going to pop them up and out of the way, and they'll pull straight back. Now you have 2 14mm bolts in the front. We're going to use our ratchet and go ahead and remove those. With our 2 front bolts removed, we're going to slide the seat all the way to the forward position and do the same for the back 2 bolts. All right, with the 4 bolts removed, let's slide the seat all the way to the rear position, and then we're going to lean it back into the back seat. Just as a note, if you feel more comfortable removing the entire seat, you can do that, but you absolutely don't have to. You'll have enough room here to put the amplifier and do everything you need to do without removing the seat. Next up, we're going to remove the kick panel and the door sill here to get access to the factory wire channel. You can easily reach in with your fingers and just pop it up. Release all the clips on the bottom here. Sometimes they do stick, so we'll get this one removed and put it back in the panel. Next up, we're going to remove the kick panel here at the bottom of the A-pillar. To do that, remove this one button head here. We're going to twist this counterclockwise until it comes off. Then the entire panel can be pulled straight back and out of the way. Now that we have the wired chase open, we can go ahead and open up each of the little clips here. To do that, you can use your panel tool or a small flathead. Release the tab and open the clip. Last panel to remove is this trim panel here. All you need to do to remove this is pull straight down to release the clips and then pull it out towards you. We've gone ahead and completely removed the seat so that we can show you all of these steps as clear as possible. So the next thing that we need to do is start running our wires from our aftermarket head unit down through the dash. We're going to go around through the space that we just opened up into the under the passenger seat area. So out of your kit, from what we sent you, you're going to need two things for this step. There's going to be a group of RCAs that are already taped up, and then you'll also have a length of 9-wire with your vehicle specific T-harness. So if you have a 2010 to a 2019, you will have this configuration with 3 plugs. If you have a 2020 or newer vehicle, you will have one single plug on this end. So the T-harness end and one end of the RCAs is going to connect to the radio. Everything else is going down through the dash and around towards the seat. For now, we're going to start with the RCAs. So this may vary depending on what head unit, aftermarket head unit you have installed in your vehicle. This customer's vehicle, he has the Sony 7000, so we're going to show you how to hook it up on that. Like I said, your RCA setup may be different depending on your vehicle. On the back of our Sony 7000 here, you can see that we have all of our RCAs on this one side. The yellow one was for the backup camera adapter. I went ahead and removed that so you guys could see this more clearly. But you'll see right here on the side, it is actually stamped. And the bottom row is your front channel, the middle row is your rear channel, and the black RCA here at the top is your sub out. So our RCAs we're going to use to run down have 6. Since this aftermarket radio only has one sub out included in your kit, there will also be a Y splitter with a couple of double male and double female adapters. So in this case, we're going to use this. If your radio has a left and a right sub out, you do not need the Y splitter here. So we're going to start with the sub. We're going to put our double male into the sub out. And then on the end of the rest of your RCAs, you'll see that we've gone ahead and labeled them. So you'll have FL, FR, RL, and RR for front left, front right, rear right, and then you'll have a SL for sub left and a SR for sub right. So since we started with our sub, we're going to find the corresponding labeled RCAs. So here's SL and SR. We're going to match these up. All right, so that takes care of our sub. Now we're going to find our next set. So here is the front left and front right. So on the back of our radio, we're going to go ahead and match up our front left and front right and finish it off with our rear. So all right, so on the back of the head unit, that's what it'll look like for this one. Like I said, yours may vary. And then let's not forget to plug our backup camera back in. So that takes care of connecting the RCAs to the back of the radio. We're going to run the other end here after we get it all straightened out. We're going to go down through the dash towards the passenger footwell. One thing I like to do, if you have a little shop light or anything like your phone light, you can go ahead and turn it on, and I put it down here on the floorboard. Now I'm just following the path of light to get down to where I want it to go. All right, with our RCAs passed down through, we're just going to leave them on the floor for right now. We're going to grab our 9-wire with our T-harness. Like I said a minute ago, you have the 3 connectors here. This is what's going to attach to the radio, and the end with the fork and the wire ferrule is going to follow the same path as the RCA. So let's go ahead and hook up our T-harness. Again, this may vary depending on the head unit or the integration piece that you have. But what we're looking for is where your integration harness plugs into your vehicle. So on this one, First plug we're going to find is the 6-pin connector here. You see you have a 6-pin connector on your T-harness. We're going to plug the male end from the truck into the female end from your harness. Next up is the location of the 10-pin connector. So we're going to remove the 10-pin connector. The male end from the truck is going to go into the female end from your T-harness, and then the male end from the T-harness goes back into the female portion there. Last wire that we need to make sure to connect off of our 9-wire is the solid blue wire. This is your remote turn-on wire. This is basically sends the signal from the head unit to the amplifier, letting the amplifier know that the head unit is turned on and that the amplifier also needs to be turned on. If you don't connect this, your system will power up, but you will probably get no sound. So we're going to use bullet connectors. If you have to use T-taps or whatever, connect the solid blue wire to the remote turn-on wire from your integration harness. So we'll go ahead and connect that here. All right, that finishes up the connections on this side. We're going to run our forked end wires and our other solid blue wire. We're going to run that down the same way that we did our RCAs, down towards the passenger footwell. Continue to work the slack through, making sure we don't have any loops or kinks. All right, so we got all of our slack through. Right now we're going to go and check, make sure that nothing else accidentally came unplugged from the back of the radio, because at this point we are done behind the radio. So we'll make all of our connections back, and then we're just going to set it back in the dash. We'll put one bolt in just to hold it in place so that we can test our system fully before we completely reassemble the dash. So let's double check. All right. And we're just going to gently tuck everything back into the dash. Grab a couple of our 10mm bolts that hold the radio in, and we will secure the radio. With the radio in place temporarily, we're going to go and route the rest of our wires, and we'll go ahead and set our amp. So let's move back down to the floor. Next step in the process is to tuck away our 9-wire and our RCAs. To do that, we're going to follow kind of the top of the carpet here. We're going to tuck them behind the carpet and end up coming out in the channel here. So let's tuck those away. Just pull down on the carpet there. We're going to kind of follow this rubber hose. I'm going to work all the way around the edge. We'll work our wires around behind the connectors here. Make sure we tuck our carpet back. And get everything nice and tidied up out of the way. Continue running your wires through the factory channel here. We're going to go through the first 3, and then we're going to make a turn and go under the carpet and come out here where the wire connector is for the seat. To remove the carpet, simply just pull up. There's little clips where the other wire chase clips are, so we just need to free those up. And that will give us enough space to route our wires through. All right, so our RCAs are going to stay towards the outside of the vehicle. Our forked connectors with the wire ferrules are going to go towards the inside. So we'll go ahead and route this under, keeping everything nice and tidy. And we'll go ahead and put those there for right now. Next step up is to go ahead and grab the amp, and we'll start to place it and get things situated before we run our power and ground. With our amplifier in hand, you'll notice there are connections on both sides of the amplifier. The side with your RCAs and all of your gain settings and all of your setting buttons, that is going to be your input side of the amplifier. And flipping it over, the set screw side here with the power, ground, and remote is going to be your power and your output side of the amplifier. To set our amplifier in place, we're going to go right in the middle here. We're going to go right kind of behind the floor vents, and that will give us the adequate spacing to get everything connected. All right, a couple more wires we need to run before we handle all of the connections to the amplifier. We still need to run the power, ground, and the wires to the sub. So let's hop into the engine compartment and we'll start routing our power wire from the battery back to the amplifier. Next step up in the process is we're going to start routing the power wire from the positive battery terminal along the inside of the fender, along the firewall, and then we're going to make entry into the passenger compartment via the main firewall grommet over there in the other corner. So the parts that you're going to need for this step are a 3mm Allen. You're going to need your kicker provided inline fuse, the cover that comes with it. You're going to have a short power wire here with an eyelet on one end and a wire ferrule on the other end. And then you're going to have your long power wire with a wire ferrule on both ends. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start just kind of mocking up where we want to run our short power wire to our inline fuse. To do that, we're going to remove the cover here. We're going to go from the bolt here on top of the battery. So I think what we'll do is we'll go for something to this effect, and then we'll attach our inline fuse to the top of the relay fuse box and fuse box cover. So first thing we need to do is we'll grab our fuse and our short power wire. We're going to loosen the set screw on both sides of the fuse block. You're going to push the wire ferrule into the fuse block and then use our Allen to tighten it down. Get it nice and snug. Give it a little bit of a wiggle, and then we'll make sure that we're all the way tight. We'll go ahead and uncoil our power wire. We'll attach one of the other wire ferrules, the one that has the black protective wrap on the wire, to the other side of our inline fuse. Again, we're going to loosen the set screw and insert the wire ferrule and go ahead and tighten it down. Again, give it a little pull and a wiggle and make sure it's all the way tight. At this point, we can put our cover on our fuse block and give it a nice push until you hear it clip in. Use a piece of Velcro, or you can secure it another way if you choose. We're going to use some double-sided Velcro here. Stick that to the bottom of our inline fuse. And then again, we're going to line it up where we want to eventually put it. And we'll go ahead and stick our inline fuse right here on top of the panel. It's important to note at this point, we are not going to connect this to the battery. We will come back and do that after we have the power, ground, and all of our connections made to the amplifier. So for right now, we'll just let this dangle to the side. Next thing you're going to need is a handful of zip ties, because what we're going to do is we're going to run this around, go across the back of the firewall, and we want to make sure that we secure it up and out of the way, away from any hot or moving parts. We definitely don't want our power wire getting tangled up in the motor. Obviously that would be pretty bad. So let's grab some zip ties and we'll start working our power wire across the firewall. There's a main wiring harness that runs right along the top of the firewall here. We're going to basically follow it and zip tie our power wire to it as we go. Start right here in the corner put a zip tie, make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And we're going to keep working our way all the way across to the passenger side. Now that we have our power wire zip tied up to that main factory harness back there, we're going to grab our side cutters and we'll go ahead and nip off all of the tails, and then we'll move to making a hole in the firewall grommet. Now is the point where we need to pass our power wire through our firewall grommet. You can see it down there where the main wires go through. So what we're going to use is just one of these utility knives. Works pretty well. And what we're going to end up doing is cutting a small X in the grommet, and then we're going to want to extend the knife and make sure that we cut all the way through. A lot of these have a front and a back barrier that we have to get through. So let's go ahead and make our X cut. Extend our knife a little bit, and we heard it pop through the inside. All right, so at this point we're going to try to pass our power wire through. If you meet a lot of resistance, you may need to make your hole slightly larger, but this grommet should just let this power wire go right on through. All right, there we go. Now we're going to move to the footwell. We're going to pull all the slack out and keep running our wire towards our amplifier. All right, moving into the footwell, you can see that our power wire poked right on through the firewall. So we'll go ahead and pull the rest of the slack out. All right, with all that pulled through, we're going to follow the same way that we did the rest of our wires down towards the factory wire chase. All right, let's finish running our power wire. Now that we have it down in the channel here, we're going to just follow the same factory wiring. And again, we will route this through the carpet and around to the power side of the amplifier. The other thing you can do in these 5th gens is this carpet piece right here is actually just kind of held on loosely here on this edge, so you can just kind of pop it loose, and that'll give you better access to be able to do this as well. So we will pull our power wire through. Again, make sure you get all your loops and kinks out of the way, and we'll leave ourselves a little bit of extra here just in case we need to move things later. We will route that around to the, like I said, the power input on the amplifier. All right, 2 more wires to run. The next one is going to be your ground for your amplifier. And we'll go ahead and get this out. Again, you'll see that you have a wire ferrule on one end and an eyelet on the other. The wire ferrule is going to go into the side of the amplifier. And right here under this carpet part that we removed back, there's a wire that runs right through here. And right below that, you will find a pre-threaded hole in the floor pan. Use the provided 10mm bolt here, and that's where we're going to ground our amplifier to. So we'll go ahead and mock up our ground wire. And then, like I said, we'll use the provided 10mm bolt, and we'll go ahead and start threading that in. And again, we're just going to tidy up all of our wires. Those are our amp wires. These go to our seat. Last and final wire that we need to run is the wires that actually go from your amp to your subwoofer. So you'll see it's a black and yellow pair here. The 2 forked ends will go to the amplifier, and the other end will go back towards your subwoofer, which will be located in the cargo area. So let's go ahead and take the twist tie off. Again, we're going to follow the same format here, except for this time we're going to start mocking up at the amplifier, and then we're going to run our speaker wires back through here, back to the chase, but this time we're going to go towards the back of the vehicle. So again, under the carpet, go ahead and pull most of the slack through. Once we have that mocked up, for right now we will push it through the last wire channel here, and we'll just leave it resting here in the back seat for right now. All right, at this point we have all of the wires run to our amplifier, so now it's time to go through how to make each of the connections on each of those wire sets. Before we actually make all the connections to the amplifier, I want to take a quick minute to go over what all the connections are and what basically everything means on either side of the amplifier. So here we're looking at the input side of the amplifier with the RCAs. So if you notice here, first column says amp 1, that's going to be our front channel. The next column is amp 2, that's going to be our rear channel. And then the third column is your sub, so that's going to be your sub left and sub right. Moving across, you have a fader selector. You can select on or off. Go ahead and push that in so that it's fade on. Right below that is sub level. It'll say low or high. We're going to be using the low setting as we're using RCAs. So the RCAs are low, the speaker wires are the high. So we're going to leave this in the out position that indicates we're using the low. The next button over is the sub input. You can see again a push button. We're in the out position, it's amp 2. Since we're actually running all 5 channels here, we're going to push that in to set it to sub. Now at the top, you have all of these little dials here. That's what we have our flathead screwdriver for. So the first setting here is gain and crossover for amp 1 or your front channels. You'll notice right now we have the gains turned all the way to the left or all the way off to the lowest position. We will set these once we get all the speakers hooked up and we actually start playing some music through the system. Across the top is your gain and crossover settings for amp 2. And then here at the bottom, you have gain, crossover, and a bass boost for your sub channel. Again, gain is an off position, and we're also going to leave the bass boost off. If you opted to select the remote bass control knob, you will plug that in here. We're not going to do that in this video. However, it's simply you just plug in one end here, the other end plugs into the bass control knob itself, and you can mount that in your vehicle wherever you choose. Lastly, we have a power and a PRT indicator light. Obviously, the power light is going to indicate whether you're getting adequate power, and then the PRT light is a protection light. So as we start to adjust gains and volume levels, you want to make sure to pay close attention to that light and that we're not accidentally overpowering our speakers. So if we flip it around to the other side, on the output side, again starting from the left, you see GND, that's going to be where your black ground cable goes. Here in the middle is REM, it's going to be your remote. This is going to be where your blue remote wire goes, and then you have plus 12V, that's going to be where your red power wire gets connected. You have 2 levels of connectors here. These are going to be for your speaker wires and your sub wire. So again, if you look here in the middle, the top row is going to be amp 1, the bottom row is going to be amp 2, and then your sub is split between the end of the top and the end of the bottom row. So again, remember these correlate to the amp 1 and 2 inputs from the other side of the amp. Our recommendation on these is to hook up the rear left and rear right inputs first, as you will need to secure it with the Phillips head screws on the top, then to do the front channels, and then connect the sub. So with that said, your wire pair colors are going to be white, gray, green, and purple. So white is going to be your front left, so that's going to be amp 1, these first 2 locations. Gray is going to be your front right, it's going to be the 3rd and 4th on the top row. Your greens are going to be your rear left, it's going to be your 1st and 2nd on the bottom row, and then your purples are going to be the 3rd and 4th for your rear right. Keep in mind the positive wire is the solid colored wire and the negative is the colored wire with the black stripe. All right, so now it's time to connect all the wires for your ground, remote, and your power wire. We're going to use the same 3mm Allen with the wire ferrules. Again, we're going to push the wire ferrule in, tighten the set screw down, give it a nice wiggle, and then make sure it's all the way locked down. To connect your speaker wire leads, you're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. You're going to have to loosen the set screws. You'll see there's a little plate in there. The fork will slide under the plate, and then you can go ahead and tighten them down. So let's go ahead and get this side connected in the vehicle, and then we'll go over connecting the RCAs. Connecting our speaker wires, we're going to put the black wire from the sub pair into the negative slot on the bottom, and the yellow one will go on the top. Next we have our remote, our solid blue wire, and we'll start splitting out the colored pairs here. So there's purple, purple with a black, white, white with a black, green, green and a black, and gray, gray with a black. So along the bottom here, you're gonna have green, green with a black, purple, purple with a black. All right, moving on to the top row, we have white, white with a black stripe, gray, gray with a black stripe. That's all of our speaker wires, and the last one to connect is the remote. It's going to go right here between the power and the ground wire. Make sure everything's nice and tidied away. Looks like we're good to go. So we'll move on to the input side of the amplifier. All right, moving on to our RCAs. If you remember back earlier in the video when we connected these to the back of our head unit, we're going to do the same thing here. The other end of these RCAs have also been labeled for you. So we're going to start with the amp 1 row. This is going to be our front channels. So we're looking for the RCAs that say FL and FR. So here we go. So the one labeled FL, we're going to go in amp 1 left. One labeled FR, we're going to go right below it in amp 1R. Next up, we're going to find our RCAs labeled RL and RR. RL is going to go in amp 2 left. RR is going to go in amp 2 right. And our last pair here are our sub left and sub right. So again, follow the same pattern. Sub left goes on the top, and sub right goes on the bottom. So now we have all of our speaker wires connected. We have them connected from the head unit to the input side of the amp. We have the output side of the amp and our 9-wire running back up, which is tied into our factory speaker harnesses. We have a couple more things to do, and then we're going to test this out. We need to secure the ground wire, we need to secure the power wire, and we need to finish running the speaker wires for the sub. So let's tidy up under the seat here by securing the ground wire, and then we'll go ahead and place our sub and connect our power. All right, next up on the docket is to run the sub speaker wire. So we came out under the carpet, went through the factory chase. We're going to continue that track towards the cargo area. Probably the easiest thing to do is you can tuck it under. If you have a little panel tool or something like that, that can also assist with working the wire under and behind the plastic. Move to the back door. Recommendation here would be to pull the door sill. Again, you have a couple of wire chase clamps here. For these, it's honestly just easier to fish it through. Make sure we get all the way under our plastic there. Keep working your slack towards the back of the truck. All right, at this point, we're gonna continue to follow the plastic, go kind of behind and around the seat. So our next step is we're gonna flip up the bottom of the seat and fold the seat back down. Pull on the tab there in the middle. And you can see that opens up some more of our plastic trim. We're gonna continue feeding the wires through. This is where the plastic panel tool can come in handy. There we go. At this point, we can tuck it in behind the back seat. We're going to fold the seat back down. So drop or remove your headrest. Press the button there at the side and lower the seat back. At this point, you should be able to reach your hand right down the bottom of the seat between there and the panel and be able to grab the wire with your fingers. Oh, there we go. There's our speaker wire. And we're just going to work it over here towards the middle, and then we can flip our seat back up to the lock position. Make sure your wire is nice and tucked out of the way so that it doesn't get hit by the seat bottom. Once you're done that, you can flip your seat back down. At this point, you can replace your door sill. Just line it up. Get it all locked into place, and we can move up front and tidy up the door sill up there as well. All right, at this point, we're going to replace all of our plastic kick panels here. So we'll go ahead and line this up and give it a push straight in. See our screw lined up back here in the back. We're going to replace the one retainer here. Just give it a nice push. Get our door sill lined up and back in place. And the last panel is this little shroud that went up under the dash. Line up the pin in the back and push in the 3 clips in the front. There we go. All right, now for arguably the easiest part of this install, we're going to take our speaker wire that we just ran to the back and connect it to our new, this is the 10-inch downfire box. So all we're going to do here is we got the ends stripped back, got them nice and twisted up. You'll see that on the sub box itself there is a black button and there's a red button. We're going to depress the button until the hole opens up. You insert the black wire into the black button and the yellow wire into the red button, and that's all you have to do to hook up the sub. And depress, put the black wire in, let it sit back, depress the red, insert the yellow wire, let it pull back. There you go. Final connection to the battery. So we're going to grab our 12mm socket. We're going to loosen the nut right here on top of the battery terminal. Go ahead and grab the end of our power wire, and we'll get a little bit of a spark. It's okay. And we're going to put the nut right back on there. Tighten it down. Here we go. All right, everybody, it's the time that we've been waiting for. Let's go ahead and turn the truck on and check out our new amp and sub combo. So put the truck into accessory power. Let our Sony radio boot up here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my phone and we're gonna connect it so we can get some music. All right, so right off the bat, everything is working. I hear sound coming from all the speakers. Now we need to actually tune the amplifier. Remember, we had all of our gains set all the way down. So what we'll do is we'll move down to the side of the amp where we had those little switches. We'll grab our small screwdriver and we'll start really tweaking the settings and fine tuning everything to get your 4Runner living loud. So let's move down to the amp. All right, so we get a lot of questions about how to set gains and crossovers on amplifiers. So we're gonna give you kind of the quick version of that today. Our recommendation is whatever head unit or aftermarket head unit, in this case, you have installed in your vehicle. The first step is to figure out what maximum volume is. So on this vehicle, we have a Sony, so its max volume is 50. The next thing you want to do is when you're setting your gains, you're going to want to turn your head unit or your source up to about 75% of its maximum volume, and then we're going to start adjusting gains. Theory there is get a lot of power out of the head unit. The amplifier only has to do a little bit versus the amplifier having to do all of it. So pick a song that's going to play for a number of minutes continuously. You're going to turn your head unit volume up, like I said, up to around 75% of max. Then you can start with your front channel, adjust the gains, go to your rear channel, adjust the gains, and then adjust your subwoofer, and then you can put it all together and get it kind of where you want it. And then past that, any of the EQ settings or any of the other settings in the head unit itself, you can just sprinkle those on top to really tune this in for your specific listening purpose. So we're going to play a song and we're just going to go ahead and set it to what the customer asked for. Now that we have our gains and crossovers set on our new Kicker 660.5 amplifier, we really have one thing left to do, and is to reassemble the rest of the truck. So in our case, we're going to put the seat back in, we're going to put the dash back together, and then we're going to go enjoy our new system. All right, everybody, that wraps up our install of our Kicker plug-and-play sub and amp combo. Thanks for hanging out this entire time. I know it's a little bit of a longer video than what we usually do, but I think everybody's going to agree this kit paired with any of our aftermarket head unit bundles and our Kicker KS series speakers is going to be an awesome upgrade to your 2010 to 2023 4Runner. If you want to pick up anything that you saw here today or any of our other 5th gen 4Runner items, head over to the shop at www.trailgridpro.com. Like always, have a blast out there.